You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Hello and welcome to round 5 of week 6 of the Eternal Tournament Series. I am Truedawn and I am joined by my co-caster, Rhino.
Hello, hello.
And we have an awesome matchup between Peaceful on the Elysian combo air quotes deck and Pingonme playing Shadow Combre.
Right. So we saw Peaceful win earlier on the back of that sweet Mares in the Eldest and Predatory Carnosaur against that Ricano control. And now we get to see Pingonme, who I believe is at 4-0 in this tournament, playing Shadow Combre, which is Combre with Shadow cards. No Akari is here. Instead, we get Subverts and Sabotage and some sweet Azindel's Gifts in the sideboard. So it's Combre that messes with your hand and still is playing lots of sweet, proactive mid-range threats that are hard to deal with.
Yeah, he's mainly playing a lot of... It's anticipating the super slow metagame that we're playing, that we've seen since the patch to change a bunch of cards, namely Frontier Jito. So in this slow format, things like Subvert and Sabotage are a lot better because people are playing these big, slow mid-range decks that are about card advantage or even particular important cards, like we've been seeing Stand Together, Xenon Obelisk. All that stuff is very important. And in this matchup, Sabotage is actually going to get a lot of important stuff like that Xenon Obelisk and potentially Permafrosts getting removal out of the way for his creatures to come down on.
Yeah, anybody that's watched me play knows my love for Sabotage. I jammed 4 of it last week in this tournament, and I jammed 4 of it in, I think, almost every tournament since the Invitational. I just think the card is amazing, and we can see why this matchup, it's not incredible, but yeah, as you said, Obelisk and Scouting Party are still incredible hits, and Permafrost ain't too shabby either. And it's just nice to get information. Even at its worst, you're just going to look at your opponent's hand. Now, you only get to look at the Sabotage targets, but even what you don't see is still information. So it's a pretty powerful card. It's rather skill testing, but as you learn to use it, it can be a massive tool that you can get a huge advantage out of.
Yeah, the one that I've been a little bit more dubious on, but I've actually started to like a lot more is Subvert. I generally don't like spending 4 mana to do nothing, and like if you are, it needs to be pretty potent. A draw 2 is usually something that costs like 3 mana, which Subvert essentially is. But when you play it right and you get later in the game and your opponent has a couple cards left in hand, those cards are highly likely to be high impact, expensive cards. So when you're actually able to leverage Subvert and use it later and not just throw it out on turn 4, it's actually very potent.
Right. In a metagame where mid-range and control are the king and queen instead of aggro, playing a 4-drop that does nothing is a bit more manageable, especially when it's giving you the kind of card advantage where it's essentially saying your opponent discards a card at random and you draw a random card, right? But when those card qualities is as high as it is right now in the current metagame, it's not really random bad cards. It's random, potentially incredibly powerful and swingy cards.
Yeah, it's just all about timing it right. Because the earlier you do it, the more likely you are to hit power, and maybe sometimes you want to hit power with it, but generally you want to be sniping your opponent's endgame cards, especially in a matchup like this where they have things like Scouting Party, which if you snipe is insane, Mercy, and potentially an Obelisk, stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember, like, I was playing with some Subvert yesterday, and it was just playing against Armory, just casually subverted their Sword of the Sky King. No big deal.
Yep, seems decent.
When something dumb like that happens, like, the game just ends, right? You take their Sword of the Sky King and you draw one of your own, and it's just, what are they going to do? It is interesting to note that this deck is now showing up after the latest patch that made Subvert cost double shadow instead of a single shadow, and the Zindel's Gift is in the sideboard now that has 3 shadow requirement instead of a single shadow requirement. So this deck would have been a lot easier power based to manage just 2 weeks ago. Now it's a lot more difficult to pull off, but between Find the Way, Seek Power, all these seats, Martial Ironthorn potentially doubling one of your shadow sources, it's still a manageable thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. definitely they're going to run into situations where they don't have all the shadow sources. Running a 3-color deck, especially a 3-color deck that has double influence requirements in all 3 colors, is going to be challenging. But there's certainly a lot of tools to do that. They slow down your deck a lot, like Find the Way and Amber Acolyte, but you will get there eventually more often than not.
Right.
I do think the challenge is issued.
All right.
Yeah, this should be interesting. I'm not sure who is favored here. We kind of just keep having mid-range, like 50, 55, 45 matchups.
Yeah, we had a string of like mid-range versus control, and the control seemed to have been winning these. This is more of a straight up mid-range matchup, although one of the mid-range decks has access to Harsh Wool, the other just has access to more, I guess, threats and proactive things. So we'll see how those end up lining up.
Okay, and we are here in game 1. So we see Peaceful is elected to keep their hand, just pretty reasonable. And then Pingonme has had to mulligan into a 2-power hand, and then does draw the 3rd power at the top. But all of this comes into play depleted, so Pingonme will be starting out this game pretty slow.
Yeah, pretty slow starts from both players. And I think the really fascinating thing about this Shadow Cambrai list is traditionally, like, Scouting Party is kind of the trump card in this Elysian versus Cambrai mirror. And by splashing the Shadow, they get access to essentially 8 cards that are really powerful against Scouting Party in the form of Subvert's not bad at grabbing it, and obviously Sabotage just straight up takes it out of their hand. So we'll see how much work this addition of Shadow to Cambrai really helps against Scouting Party.
Yeah, and the Subvert, even if it doesn't take the Scouting Party, could potentially take power, preventing them from getting to the Scouting Party. Could take a Xenobelisk, mitigating the power of Scouting Party, or in this deck could take a Wump, makes the Scouting Party worse. So
yeah,
there's a lot of things that accentuate the power of Scouting Party that Subvert can help break up.
So even though it seemed like Pingonme was the one that was likely to get stuck on power this game, it's actually Peaceful.
Yep, funny how that works.
Yeah, Pingonme ripped some power off the top. Peaceful didn't, and now Peaceful the one that's stuck here with a bunch of things that they can't do. But at least they have the permafrost and are digging deeper. In the meantime, Pingonme probably just gonna throw out a Titan if I had to guess. Your opponent did miss power, so you know Subvert's gonna hit here. But at the same time, Subvert's also gonna hit the next turn, right? Like if they hit power, they're gonna play the power. Subvert's still gonna hit the next turn. Subvert's still gonna hit. Like, you know, your opponent's just can only really draw 1 power a turn. And is only gonna play 1 power a turn. So I'm not a huge fan of using the Subvert here. I think just playing a 5/6 on this board would have been a better idea, but.
Yeah, I definitely like taking advantage of the fact that your opponent is missing power. You want to kind of put your foot in their throat. The 5/6 Sandstorm Titan represents a pretty fast clock. But now Pingonme elected to give Peaceful a little bit of breathing room, and Peaceful's not able to really punish by drawing a power. He drews Xenobelisk, but he still has the Wasp. He will be able to kill this Titan when it does come down, if it comes down, because it looks like Pingonme's going to find the way here.
But like Subvert taking Lumen Defender is just not anything you really like. That's just such a bad hit. Like you had 2 silences to turn it into a 1/5 anyway. It wasn't going to stop your Sandstorm Titan, so that was not good for Pingonme, I would say. But now Find the Way lets him develop his power, but again, not developing any pressure to take advantage of Peaceful being stuck here, and Peaceful somehow is the one that's swinging on this board.
And I think playing the Wasp, like, just normally there is super dangerous because you know your opponent has access to Desert Marshals and Valkyries. And now a thing that was previously just a clean removal spell is now just probably going to turn on one of your opponent's silence effects.
At the same time, though, you have so many other targets for those silence effects. I don't think you mind just getting them out of your opponent's hand. I mean, you've got, Desert Marshal can still be a real pain against Scouting Party. Essentially takes out 2 Yetis. You have Predatory Carnosaur and Lumen Defender in hand. I think just you need to draw power here, and that means you're just not going to be able to ever hold up power for this Scorpion Wasp for the rest of the game. Like if you miss power again there, like how are you ever winning this game? So I like just playing the Wasp and using it as at least a little bit of pressure, a little bit of damage.
Yeah, you certainly can't sit back on your heels forever. I agree with that. But there is a point where like this Wasp may have been able to answer a threat and may not be able to do so. But this Praxis Displacer gets this bounce to Sandstorm Titan, slowing down Pingonme once again. So Peaceful is like stabilizing the board. He was like pretty far behind, but now he's actually kind of ahead. But Pingonme's hand is just full of gas. But so is Peaceful's. He just needs power for it.
Yeah, Pingonme here has the option of either going Titan, hold up Marshall, or can go just start drawing more cards off Ascendant. Although I don't know why you're looking to draw cards on this board. I think you're just trying to wrest control of it back to your side. But we'll see what he opts to do. I think both lines have some justification.
Yeah, the awkward thing about not playing Mystic Ascendant this turn means you probably can't play the seat because you wouldn't draw a card off of it. You don't have anything that expensive, so it's not super awkward. But he's probably just gonna sit up back on Desert Marshal, not play the seat past turn. And we'll see if Peaceful's able to start developing their mana, which they're not. Wump is not a power source.
Yeah. So he's just gonna drop the obelisk instead of Wump here. Sure, fine. And you can swing with a wasp, but your opponent kind of represents stuff.
Yeah, it's representing the Desert Marshal here. Although the Wump, if Peaceful can draw running power the next 2 turns, Wump into Scouting Party is a way he can get back in this game. It's worth a lot of cards.
Yeah.
We do see the Harsh Roll on the side of Pingonme, but Pingonme's extended out into this board. He probably doesn't want to pull the trigger on his Harsh Roll anytime soon.
Yeah. We keep talking about Scouting Party being like the big thorn in Combray's side in this matchup, and usually you want to save Harsh Rule for something like that. This board state's still manageable. I like this swing with the Titan. When your opponent has an obelisk in play, I just like taking trades where you can take it, especially if it means freeing up your Mystic Ascendant to start really beating down in the future. So, yep, takes the swing for 5 and gets the 5.
Yep, and there's step 1 for Peaceful. I would probably expect the Wump here just because the Scouting Party next turn is so potent, but the Lumen Defender definitely is an argument for. It does get you a lot of breathing room. It does prevent this Titan from attacking. It prevents everything from attacking, actually. You probably doesn't want to trade the Mystic Ascendant for it either. So I could definitely get behind this.
Yeah, I'm in Peaceful shoes. Like it seems like Pingonme's not interested in putting in that much pressure, and basically this Lumen Defender represents stopping all this pressure. Peaceful might just be on the plan of like Wumping, like actually try and wait till like 8-9 power to do Wump Scouting Party here. If he has all day to do it, you might as well. You don't need to be in a rush to try and beat a Combray opponent that has a handful of.
And Pingonme does have the option here of playing one of the Valkyries to silence the Lumen Defender, making it so his large creatures have reasonably profitable attacks. He elects to play his own Lumen Defender instead, though. Yeah. Electing, being content to slow down the game, not really attack here, which I think is giving Peaceful like a little bit of room to claw back to. We do see the Amber Acolyte there, so now he has to play Amber Acolyte, play the power, and then set up Wump for Scouting Party in the following turn.
Yeah, you can either play Wump here or like I said, maybe just not be in a rush and just kind of be patient. He's not under that much pressure. His opponent could be drawing extra cards every turn, but and now this pause is gonna let him know that he did right by holding this Wump and not letting it get silent.
Yep, it's definitely a conservative play. I don't hate it. You're like miles away from getting to 9 mana though, so I don't know what else the Wump is going to do. Although you do have other things to do with your mana. He can Carnosaur next turn if he wants to do that. He can Mirror Scene in a couple turns. So he will have other things to do, even if he just didn't want to hold on.
And like I said, he's got a Lumen Defender down. It's not like he needs more units on this board. Like Wump is not adding anything to this board other than the fact that it could make Scouting Party better next turn and you get to reload your hand. But the odds of your opponent not having something to either silence or deal with this Wump are so abysmally low. I think you're just playing for the long game here. Just keep waiting it out. You're not in a rush.
And most of the Carnosaur come down here, and I expect to see the Desert Marshal block and then silence likely the Lumen Defender.
Yeah, I believe you should silence the Lumen Defender here. Silencing the Predatory Carnosaur doesn't stop the killer. So the killer
we'll
is
see
still
it silenced. So
going to happen. All right, I guess that plays around the idea that maybe Peaceful has another Praxis display here and can return it back to his hands along those lines.
Yeah.
He might just think that's more relevant than silencing the Lumen Defender.
And it's certainly interesting how Pingonme's played this game. I think he could have Valkyried like several turns ago, and that would have really given him profitable attacks with the Sandstorm Titan and the Mystic Ascendant for a while. But he's been content to just play a slow game, sit back in the Mystic Ascendant, get this Seraph to start turning out creatures. And we'll see if Peaceful's able to claw back. He's definitely getting some breathing room to do so.
Yeah, Pingonme's been kind of playing like they have the inevitability and not Peaceful, even though Pingonme had the more aggressive hand, he just opted to not play it aggressively. And now we've just got this kind of stalemate going on where both players have a lot of resources in hand, but Pingonme does have a Seraph going and a harsh rule in hand and stuff. So it's got more powerful tools, whereas Peaceful still just kind of trying to find a way out of this board stall.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that Peaceful does not have any copies of Crystallized main deck. They only have one in the sideboard.
Right.
So the way they don't, one of the Elysian's core weaknesses is they can't really break a board stall without Crystallize. So in the main deck, Peaceful's actually pretty weak to this scenario. Even if they can Womp, Scouting Party, draw a bunch of cards, it's going to be hard to get profitable attacks into all these creatures like the Sandstorm Titan, the Mystic Ascendant, and now the Ancient Terrazon that Pingonme has on his side.
Really, Peaceful might have to win via Wump pings.
Yeah.
Like Wump is a form of reach in this deck. You know, if you have 2 Wumps in play and play a Scouting Party, you do 8 damage to your opponent. That might be the way he has to find out to win this game. And that's why I think this Wump's so important. Like, he's casting Scouting Party here, but I guess he's just doing it to have chump blockers.
Yeah, like these aren't getting in. There's just no way these are going to convert to value. That's why I think he's been like, there was some degree of conservatism with the Wump that I was okay with, but I think we've passed that point. I think if they have a silence, they have a silence. You just have to try to Wump play the Scouting Party. You have to give yourself the opportunity to have that happen.
And we see another Jack and another Legend off this Seraph Lotto. So some pretty good hits here. You've got a 16-16 invulnerable to damage Ancient Terrazon, and now you've got a 12-8 quick draw Jack, while also taking out their deadly units. So these Seraph hits are giving Pingonme some pretty real pressure here that you can't deal with Death Touch or deadly units or anything like that. They're just going to keep swinging in and taking out units every turn until Peaceful finds I don't even know what.
Yeah, like this is, I've played similar Elysian decks like this before and found myself in similar spots asking myself, okay, what can I draw? And the answer is often nothing. There's nothing that gets you through this board stall. He would have to like get several obelisks, I guess, is like the other 3 obelisks have profitable attacks. But outside of that, there's just not a lot. And that's why I don't like holding on to this Wump, because you need to like draw a bunch of cards to get a bunch of obelisks or something. But
the reason I like holding Wump is just hoping that you get to 9 though, and then actually get the guaranteed draw off of it. But yeah, because like even if you had played Wump, it just you get the card draw, you're still just kind of sitting there waiting. Like here, it's just your board's still full. They don't have any flyers, even if they had flyers or Sandstorm Titans grounding them. Okay, plays Disciple on a full board, which means you can't make a token with it. Doesn't seem
a little
ideal.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. You only get an option to kill one of your units if that unit is not being created from another card.
Correct. Yes. And it sounds weird, but I really think Peaceful is just kind of like hard locked out of this game.
Yeah, he's got to hope that Pingonme accidentally uses a harsh rule.
Yeah, that's his out.
Like his out is hoping that Pingonme. Like I really don't know what else he could do. All right, Pingonme finds a very small flyer. It gets grounded by Sandstorm Titan. Still swings with 2 units that are essentially unblockable. Yeah,
the Ancient Terrazon and the Jack are essentially acting like sacrifice 2 creatures every turn.
Yeah,
can take a hit from them a couple times, but it's largely just going to be eating 2 creatures. So until Peaceful's able, he's going to churn through all Peaceful's creatures eventually. This might take a while though.
Yeah, especially with a Marizin. I mean, luckily Pingonme has both like Vanquish and Silence for Marizin, so it's not like even that's going to provide infinite chumps. Just 1 or 2.
We could also get to a point where Pingonme elects to silence his own Sandstorm Titan or chump attack it in and then win with the Valkyries and Parliaments.
Oh yeah, we could get to that point, but I think for now he's just going to keep spinning this Seraph Lotto and just sit. I don't know. I don't see a reason to be in a rush to win if you're in Pingonme's side of the board. Like I guess them hitting 9 and going Wump Scouting Party might be threatening. Really, it's just
he's gonna keep seraphing, and then we see
Peaceful shows mercy to us and the viewers, and is like, you know what, I just don't have it.
Yeah, I was medium concerned that we were getting to a point where
we may have played
that out, and then just gonna sit there forever while Pingonme slowly grounded out. But Peaceful has mercy, and he'll move to game 2. looking at the sideboard, we will start with, I guess, Pingonme. He has a copy of Cop Conduit, 2 Dark Return, 2 Combray Healer, 2 Copperhall Bailiff, 4 Decay, 2 Scorpion Wasp, and 2 Azendel's Gift. What do you like here, Rhino?
I mean, all these cards are good cards that are reasonable in this matchup, other than maybe like the Combray Healer. Generally against like Elysian Obelisk type decks, I do like to apply pressure if I can. Now you do have Harsh Rule, so you don't have to as much here. And it's not like your opponent has the option of, well, they have backlashes and slows, as we saw before for Peaceful. So you can't hang on these Harsh Rules as much. I'm not a huge fan of bringing in Decay for just Obelisk. I don't think it's that big of a deal, honestly, especially when your opponent, well, I guess your opponent, do they have Sureback? God, yeah, they do. This is a tough one. I like the Copper Conduit. Let's start there. It has Overwhelm. Yeah. That's nice. The Bailiff is somewhat useful. Like, I think those are better than even like Combray Healers, at least. The Scorpion Wasp, I'm not digging. Azendel's Gift, the game's going to go long. They're going to stockpile things. I think you bring it in for this matchup, even though it's weird to play a 7-drop with no board impact against a matchup that's all about who owns the board. So I'd only bring in the Gift if I could really justify a good cut for it. Maybe it's better than just the Subverts or something. I don't know.
This definitely seems like, again, sideboarding bad cards out, not necessarily good cards in. A lot of this is very marginal. Right. I don't know how many of Sabotages and Decays you want. Those kind of have diminishing returns. Sabotage does hit Scouting Party as well, but generally they're like hitting the same stuff, and those are like, there's not a huge amount of targets for them.
Sabotage does hit Backlash.
That does matter. Yes.
If you're going to continue to lean on Harsh Rule, which I think you do here in this matchup, I think that gives the edge. Like I said, I just don't see why I would bring in Decay here. Like, yeah, it hits Obelisk, it does nothing else.
Yeah, I agree.
But you can already silence Permafrost. They're probably not even keeping in Permafrost. Who knows?
Yeah, I think you only want one of the two, and Sabotage certainly seems to be the better one. So on Peaceful sideboard, we have seen it earlier, but we'll go over it again just for context. This matchup, we see Backlashes are going to be really good because Harsh Rule is a big problem, and Crystallize is going to be the one way that he's able to break a stalled board like the one we just saw.
Yeah. Again, I think he's going to try and get more aggressive here with some of these cards, take out some number of Wasps or whatever for real threats like False Prince or so, get some Backlashes in there. If I'm holding up a reactive spell, I'd rather have Backlash in this matchup than Scorpion Wasp and let the rest of my board do their and yeah, the Crystallize, the board's going to get crowded. Crystallize helps you find lethal.
Cerso could also attack profitably into most things. He'll probably be swapped out for something. But yeah, it's mainly just not getting into a board stall spot for Peaceful. Whatever he can do to prevent that from happening is what he wants to side in. So even things like slow, also like marginal. I guess the Lumen Defender, I think you don't want Lumen Defenders in this matchup because, again, Lumen Defenders contribute to board stalls, which Pingonme is much better at winning. So I don't think you want Lumen Defenders. Those are probably coming out. Not a lot else that strikes me as particularly useless, but really interesting here on the side of Peaceful.
So they're still boarding? Or are they about to get ready? I mean, we just spent all this time talking about it. It's not a simple matchup here. A lot of like potential next leveling in this sideboards in terms of like, well, if I know they're going to bring in Backlash, maybe I just take out my Harsh Rules and try and take this different angle, or I keep in this Sabotages with the Harsh Rule and try and stick that. There's some interesting options and avenues as far as that goes, but it looks like this challenge.
Yep. So the sideboard, it's really just who can win the board stall, or in the case of Peaceful, how can he prevent a board stall from ever taking place? So we will see if he's able to do that as we move into game 2 here in just a moment.
Or if a board stall does happen, then it becomes Pingonme's side of the equation of, all right, what happens if they draw Crystallize this turn?
Yeah.
Like then you start playing that little dance. So Pingonme's got a hand of 2-ish power. There was an Amber Acolyte there, but decides to ship that one.
And this is reasonable for him. He has the Harsh Rule to blunt pressure. Peaceful decks doesn't do a lot in the first 3 turns of the game. Most decks in this format don't do a lot in the first 3 turns of the game, which is probably an opening for more aggressive decks, but apparently there's like a gentleman's agreement across the format right now to just play decks like this again.
I think if what I heard is right, I think the rest of the 4-0 bracket is like Stone Scar Burn.
Makes sense.
They've just been praying on everyone off camera. So yeah, all right. So kept in the Combre healers. All right.
Yeah, I think Pingonme does want to stall the board. I think that it's actually the opposite for him because he is favored to win the board stall. So anything that slows down the game is favorable for Pingonme.
Yeah,
so Combre healer does that.
I'm just interested to see if he also brought in bailiffs while keeping in Combre healers or what they decided to change up there.
Yeah, the equation of like what you can take out, how much of an effect you can have, how many 3-drop blockers is too many. It's certainly an interesting equation. So we move into Peaceful's turn 4. We see a Sandstorm Titan come from Pingonme. Peaceful can elect to play Mirror Disciple, make a Death Toucher, cantrip with the Temple Scribe if he wants to try and develop more power. Probably see the Mirror Disciple here.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't.
Comes down here. You already have the 5th power. I think you relieve yourself of pressure, and next turn maybe Temple Scribe start holding up back.
And here we see Pingonme is not have any more power. He only has these Great Parliaments as castable spells. He doesn't have the Harsh Roll if he draws one more, so he can kind of like. I don't think he casts anything here. I think he just like rope-a-dope Peaceful into extending into this Harsh Roll. You already have 2 excellent blockers. You're not really compelled to do anything here. I think you just try and maximize this Harsh Roll.
Yeah, I would sit here. I've got a 2/5 and a 5/6. I don't see what adding a 4/4 that is grounded does to this board, right? Your opponent can't permafrost your 5/6. They can't cast a predatory Carnosaur next turn, so they can't remove it that way. They don't have anything like polymorph, so it's a pretty safe bet that this 5/6 is going to live. Actually opts to swing for 2 here. I kind of like that too. You're basically saying I'm willing to trade 2 damage for 1 damage, right? Because only the Scorpion.
Yeah, you definitely trade the Combre healer for the Scorpion if you had the choice, but Peaceful's not willing to oblige. So Peaceful has the option to Surso here, which is pretty good. Now that Pingonme played the Parliament, he's extended to the board so much you're not scared of Harsh Roll.
Yeah, now Pingonme whiffs on power completely, much less undepleted power. Can't cast Subvert because it costs a double shadow, not a single shadow. And now Peaceful gets to basically hold up Backlash the rest of it. And yeah, this is really not a good spot. Yeah, Pingonme basically needs to draw both power and an answer to Surso. And so like either if you don't draw power, you need to find a silence for Surso so you can actually block him. Or if you do draw power, you get to cast Harsh Rule, maybe, but if your opponent holds up Backlash, this Surso is just making your life miserable.
I mean, technically, Pingonme does have an answer to Surso in play. He has 3 little piggies that can jump in front of the Pig Father.
Yeah. I'm real interested to see now that because Peaceful notices, oh, he's stuck on 4. Like, do you just keep pressuring here with a Carnosaur, or do you not play with fire and just be content to beat down with?
I really want to leave up Backlash for the rest of the game. Whatever allows me to do that, I want to do that.
Yeah, because you certainly could just say, well, most of their power is depleted, so I probably have 2 turns, but is that worth the risk? And as we see, yep, depleted power, but they get to cast Subvert. Hey, the real question is, do you Backlash that?
No, they're favored. Well, not favored to hit a power, but they're like 40%. I think that's an aggressive Backlash. I know that like
Subvert though, the mystery of it all is it's intimidating.
Because if they hit Carnosaur, you don't really care. If they have Shimmer Pact, they can't utilize it well as you. It's like it's unfortunate you can't play it, but I think most of the cards in your hand are bad.
Yeah, it was more the concern if they hit Backlash, but then they already essentially hit Backlash by you using Backlash.
Yeah,
right?
Correct.
You have no Backlash targets in hand, and yep, these blocks tell you, I'm about to get Harsh Ruled.
Yeah, and Harsh Roll is like because Harsh Roll makes your Shimmer Pack so bad, so like you didn't care if you lost Shimmer Pack because I just think you really need to protect that Backlash. The Backlash was the most important card in your hand.
Yep. So now, all right, Slow can slow down an Ascendant or a Parliament. They have no power in hand, so maybe
Probably just tag one of the Ascendants here, I would think.
Yeah, I mean the Parliament only can make one owl at the moment, though. I guess you play Carnosaur and go with it. they opted to make Parliament cost 8.
Which is always awkward because you kind of cast Parliament on turn 8 anyway.
Yeah.
I would much rather rank the Mystic Ascendant at 12, which is functionally uncastable.
Right,
So.
right. Yeah, I think I could agree with taking out a Mystic Ascendant there instead of a Parliament.
And the Valkyrie will be able to come down here and not get eaten by the Carnosaur due to silence. And there's the other backlash, but now it's significantly worse than it previously was at the other board state.
And again, now you wish you hadn't slown the Great Parliament, because guess what? You have an answer to it.
Yep.
So, of course, you didn't know they were going to draw a play other than Great Parliament, right? They drew a Silence Flyer off the top. Hard to play around what you don't know is on top of your opponents.
Yeah, and if I'm peaceful, I want to just save this Shimmer Pack because they have 2 Mystic Ascendants, and you would like to turn those into forms, essentially silencing them. Probably the best use this card is going to get.
He opts to just play it as a 4/4.
Which is going to be really bad if Pingonme draws a power, which he did, because now the 6/6 just blocks everything.
Like, I realize you're trying to win this game as quickly as possible, but that might just be too reckless of a use.
Yeah, you got to pump the brakes there. Realize that this Shimmer Pack needs to silence these Mystic Ascendants, because if you don't, these Mystic Ascendants are going to run roughshod over the game.
Yeah, but like you want to end this game quickly. That doesn't mean you can. And
yes.
I think that's one of those things you have to recognize. Like, all right, I don't have really the reach to end this. This 4/4 might. That's kind of.
Yeah, I would be surprised if we see a trade here. Pingonme does go to 6, but I don't know how damage comes in again, unless if Pingonme doesn't draw power, but,
right? This is what we're talking about. How much do I need to worry about crystallize here? And I think you're fine making this trade. Your opponent doesn't have really that much board left.
I think that's too conservative for my taste. I think it's fine. I wouldn't have done it, but I can definitely see why you want to play around crystallize, which is likely the only card.
You've got another Ascendant in hand. You've got a Parliament in hand. You've got an Acolyte that can get you to that 8th power. Like, it's not like it's your last gasp, where it could be your opponent's, just because it is a 6/6. I realize that your Mystic Ascendant could become an 8/8 the next turn, but then you also run the risk of either crystallize or permafrost, and it seems like you have the inevitability here. So why give your opponent more outs than they really should have?
Yeah, I almost would have been content to just trade with the Valkyrie. Like, what else is that Valkyrie doing? But we probably see this Mystic Ascendant this Amber Acolyte come down. Him hold on to the power, set up Mystic Ascendant next turn. You could vanquish the 4/4 here.
I don't mind that at all.
Try to.
Like, what else are you doing with this vanquish against a Legion? Like, waiting for.
Yeah, they don't have a huge number of targets. You could draw the second Cerso, but that's unlikely.
Yeah, Cerso or more Carnosaurs, but your hand's going to be clogged up with just these other expensive plays, and you run the risk of just dying to a top deck Obelisk at any point and stuff like that. Again, I think the inevitability is on Combray's side, which means you kind of just want to throw your resources out here and try and elongate the.
And now, but this is a spot where Pingonme is in an awkward position this turn because they traded that Mystic Ascendant. They don't have the biggest creature in play now. They either have to vanquish, and then they could trade the Valkyrie for the 3/3, and that's fine.
I would vanquish here because you just don't have good blocks for this 4/4, and you're at 12.
And the Obelisk could be gross. We do see Peaceful draw Sandstorm Titan, so the vanquish will hit a better target, but 4 damage will still come in here. These are still reasonable attacks for Peaceful.
If I'm Pingonme and I see my hand has another Mystic Ascendant, another Great Parliament, I'm just trying to get it to where I can live with those.
Yeah. You just want to cast the things
away. Now you're throwing a 2/1 out there, and again, this vanquish costs power to play. It's not like it's some free thing that you can cast on any of these future turns. But Sandstorm Titan's a really big grab here.
It was also weird that Pingonme played the power last turn, so another Mystic Ascendant can't draw card. They are kind of pressed into Parliamenting.
Yeah, some awkward sequencing and decisions here. Look,
I would expect now we just see Sandstorm Titan vanquish the opposing Sandstorm Titan. I don't playing Parliament doesn't the tokens don't block the Titan or the 4/4 profitably. That's
playing
really
Parliament
not a great place to be.
He's dead now.
Yeah,
Pingonme is dead.
Yeah, due to the backlash. So that is unfortunate. I think Pingonme had the tools to like really snowball that game out of control, but he just kind of got like cheated out.
Yeah,
like
Peaceful played the 4-4 and got it out, and now we're tied up. I mean, it turns out playing that Shimmer pack when he did helped with the pressure at the end of that game. I think he got a little bit assisted by some odd decision making from Pingonme, but when you're in that spot, you kind of have to hope that your opponent, plays into your own game plan.
Yeah, if Pingonme just takes the 6 from the Carnosaur, or even just chump blocks with the Mystic Ascendant, or rather the Valkyrie, I'm not sure how he loses from that point outside of Crystallize. But we will move into game 3 after players do, it looks like, a little bit more sideboarding, reevaluating some things for each side.
That game was just Backlash again being absolutely incredible. It looked like, wow, Pingonme actually sided out a Sabotage. It went down to 3, if I'm looking at this list correctly. I imagine they might reconsider that after getting kind of given the runaround by these Backlashes in the last game. It looks like he's just going to keep it to 3. Wow.
He did bring it to Decay, and that's probably the consideration. He only wants 4 of that effect, but as we talked about earlier, I think Sabotage is better than all of the Decays. So.
Yeah, like effectively Subvert got rid of a Backlash in that game, but you can't always count on it.
Yep, just players making decisions, fine-tuning things. I'm not sure what else you'd really want to change from the other side. I think they're just going to move into game 3 here. It's, again, really about Pingonme wants to slow the game down so his things like Mystic Ascendant and Seraph and Great Parliament can get value. Peaceful wants to prevent that from happening. I think both decks are set up as well as they can to do those things.
Yeah, and I just don't know if I can really agree with a 1 of Decay. I realize you're maybe thinking of it as an extension of a 3 of Sabotage. It's like, if you already think Sabotage is enough better than Decay to play 3 of it, why not just play the 4th? Like, why are you playing this 1 of in a deck where you have really no card filtering? Yeah, you get to see a lot of your deck, but the odds of seeing a 1 of 75, like we're talking about post-board games. The card's either really good or it's not. You maybe should pick a side on that instead of waffling with it.
Yeah, you never want to be a spot where you draw a sideboard card and you're like, this is like whatever. You want your sideboard cards to be the best cards in your deck.
Right. It's like, if they're not always going to be great, why are you bringing them? It's not like Xenon Obelisk is some card that's just completely something you can't deal with in this. If you have Harsh Rule, you can manage their board. So,
and worth noting that as we moved into game 3, Peaceful is stuck on power, but does luckily draw the 3rd power there. But they still need to do that like 1 or 2 more times to really start playing this game.
And not just draw like any kind of power. Like, they've got a Magus in the Mist that costs triple primal. They've got a triple time card in hand. Like, it's not just like easy, I hit 5 power, I get to cast all these cards. That's still not even guaranteed here. Although you've got some Sandstorm Fans that can help buy you time. Hopefully.
Yeah, unfortunately, this looks like a game where Peaceful might just get run over.
In the meantime,
although Pingonme doesn't have a good proactive play this turn, he can play the 4/4 flyer from the Parliament, which it looks like he will do. So putting the pedal to the metal.
You're stuck on power. You're not going to be able to hold Backlash this game. Take out a 4/4 with it. That's great.
Yeah, he just needs to buy time. He needs to draw out of this. Amber Acolyte's one of the better cards. It trades with the opposing Amber Acolyte, gets him a power. He'll get these Sandstorm Titans down. So I think that the bleeding has largely been stemmed on the side of Peaceful.
This is a board state though where I'm interested in, like, I think I would rather have a Bailiff than a Combre healer. I'd be at least getting some War Cries here and stuff, and that's kind of cool. Like, I just think Bailiff's like almost better on offense and defense in this matchup than a healer.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. Wow, and there's the 3rd primal, so he can Majestic of the Mist.
Yeah, Magus of the Mist is notoriously great against Combre. It puts down 2 bodies. One of it's vanquishable, the other side's not. You can't really just silence the Magus to deal with the dragon. In fact, that does the opposite of what you want. So it's just a 9/9 split over 2 bodies for 5, which turns out is pretty good against a deck that's trying to just outmuscle you with large units.
Yeah, it's a decent array. So we have to. I'm interested to see how Pingonme decides to play this game from here, because he has all these proactive threats. Like, he could play Valkyrie this turn, he could play Seraph this turn. If he wanted to, he could Vanquish. But he also has this Harsh Rule, and I assume he really wants to get value from this Harsh Rule, but he has to do something about the 6/6 flyer, because that's enough pressure by itself. So we're probably going to see a Vanquish here, and we do see the Vanquish. And then I actually don't expect him to extend out further, because that just makes his Harsh Rule worse.
Right. Yeah, I like this line as well, where you just, 2/5 can block this 3/3. No reason to play as Seraph while I've got a Harsh Rule in hand. let's just sit here and see what happens.
We'll see Sandstorm Titan come down, and then you could even run back that line. Even though you have the second harsh rule, I think you could just pass turn here as Pingonme, take essentially pay 5 life to give Peaceful the opportunity to overextend into the harsh rule. And if he doesn't, you just paid 5 life for it. That's not the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how patient Pingonme wants to be here. You've got 26 health against a deck with little reach, but he opts. You know what? I've got 2 harsh rules. Let's throw this out there, and maybe we get to do some other things. Yeah, he gets rewarded for that because Peaceful just drew a backlash off the top, and that would have potentially punished his greed, right?
Yeah, that's certainly a consideration, is firing off the harsh rules while your opponent is below 2 mana, playing around those backlashes.
Yeah, so that is, we saw that they didn't have a backlash, but Pingonme certainly didn't know that. And I think it was wise to just be like, all right, I could get punished by backlash again. I don't want that to happen. Let's do this. So yeah, Peaceful lowers the shields and gets banked for it.
We see him trying to piecemeal out the threats. He didn't want to play the Mearson Disciple or the Mystic or Magus in the previous turn because it made him vulnerable to harsh rule. But now he actually play Magus, which is a singular card, but kind of demands a harsh rule on its own. So
yeah, and here comes the harsh rule. So there you have it.
Yeah, that's really good for Peaceful. Now he can just play this Mearson Disciple, play this Carnosaur. He gets some card draw. He can even leave a backlash after he plays this Mearson Disciple, which doesn't matter a lot. It's probably not going to get harsh rule by itself, but
yeah,
he has a lot of plays lined up in the following turns. Although Pingonme's hand is a bunch of gas.
Yep. These Ascendants will do work at some point. I guess you're going to seek here and not play the power, so you can't actually play 2 3-drops here. And look at this, just backlashing that Seek power. You know your opponent's a little tight on it and just throws it out. I don't know about that.
Pretty aggressive.
I've been known to sabotage some early Seek powers, but I'm not sure about that one.
I mean,
it's 2 harsh rules, so I suppose that's the thought process there. And you're just gonna draw more backlashes. Why not?
Yeah, sure. It was good. It was great. Best backlash ever. Worked perfectly.
Yeah. So all right, and now he's got plenty of pressure, and is gonna hold up this next backlash for the rest of the game. I'm sure of it at this point, right?
Yeah. Well, at least Pingonme gets to get a 6/6 here. He's still gonna take 7, which is a lot, but actually, with this crystallized Peaceful's and now the practice place, you're just gonna be able to tempo him out of this game.
That is lethal. So yep, there you have it. Peaceful on the back of backlash, taking games 2 and 3. Just the Shadow Combre list was just too tight on power. Never found the sabotages to get that hand information or to relieve pressure. And
Pingonme was unable to stem the early aggression, unable to slow the game down to the point where his Mystic Ascendants could get value. We saw there that Pingonme died with a Mystic Ascendant in hand and one in play that didn't matter. So that's not where you want to be with that deck. But good on Peaceful for leveraging that game to that point and siding reasonably well, and the aggressive backlash that paid off.
Yep. Yeah, and I like that backlash on the Seek power. You basically know at that point, I'm not planning on them having another harsh rule. They're trying to develop their board here. I've got this Predatory Carnosaur I want to play the next turn, so I know I'm not going to be able to hold this backlash for 2 to 3 turns out. I've got all these other things to do. I liked it. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, definitely. And that was actually our last round, or last match of the round. Sorry, not our last round. We have one more of those. We will be returning shortly with round 6, the last round of Swiss, and then be moving on to top 8. So we will see all of you soon. For Sir Rhino, I am Truedawn, and we will see you shortly.